Trump is in NATO. And I wanted to get your take on this, Buck, but let's play a couple of cuts here. There was a report that came out yesterday from one of the many governmental intelligence agencies questioning the impact of the overall strikes in Iran and how they have been effective when it comes to pushing back the nuclear program in Iran. And I'm going to play a couple of cuts, but I think it's important for you guys to realize that we moved very rapidly from it's totally unnecessary to attack Iran's nuclear programs. How can you trust that they are getting close to having nuclear weapons to the attacks on Iran nuclear weapons were not actually that effective because they only pushed it back a few months. Okay, this is where we are. I don't understand how you can argue both sides there. Either Iran had a nuclear weapon goal and we have pushed it back to some degree, or we obliterated it, right? There is suddenly no argument that Iran didn't have nuclear weapons. Here is Trump saying it's fake news. You can't get into the Fordow nuclear facility tunnels to check because they are obliterated. Here is cut 8. Listen.
What bothered me about these reports with fake reports put out by the New York Times, I call it the failing New York Times because it's doing terribly. Without me, it would be doing no business at all. But, and by fake news, CNN and MSDNC, all of these terrible people, they have no credibility. When I started, they were at 94% credibility, the media. Now it's at 16%. And I'm very proud of it because I've exposed it for what it is. But when I saw them starting to question the caliber of the attack, was it bad? Well, it was really bad. It was devastating. They were obliterated. In fact, you can't get into the tunnels. They just put that over. That just came out. They can't. There's nothing. There's no way you can even get down. The whole thing is collapsed in a disaster. And I think all of the nuclear stuff is down there because it's very hard to remove. And we did it very quickly.
Okay, that is one cut. Let me play one more, and then Buck, I want to hear what you think, having been with your intelligence background. Here is Trump telling CNN's Caitlin Collins that your reference to the document isn't even accurate. And again, this was an early intelligence report. This is cut 9.
You just cited Israeli intelligence on these attacks. Earlier, you said U.S. intelligence was inconclusive. Are you relying on Israeli intelligence for your assessment of the impact of the strikes?
No, this is also Iran made the statement. And it's also, if you read the document that was given, the document said it could be very severe damage. But they didn't take that. They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe. And you didn't choose to put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated. And we think everything nuclear is down there. They didn't take it out.
Okay. Buck, you worked in intelligence gathering for years before you ended up in media. And you and I were just at the CIA, which just kind of blew my mind thinking about the tens of thousands of people working in intelligence. How many different reports do you think there are that are coming out from a variety of different intelligence agencies? And are you of the opinion that this got leaked because it was not particularly positive about Trump, and then they want to run with it at the New York Times and CNN? What's kind of your take on this report in general?
Well, yeah, of course, the media has decided that they're going to try to find a negative spin on the attacks that so far seem to have been spectacularly successful. Trump has said so much. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has said as much, that there has been a clear desire in the media to find some way we know it's not World War III. We know it's not U.S. troops on the ground. So a lot of the fear-mongering around this has fallen by the wayside. So they're looking for a way to make it seem like this wasn't the brilliant stroke of statesmanship and decision-making from the commander-in-chief. that it was. And so, yeah, of course they're going to run with this, that there would be an early stage assessment from someone at DIA that would know this or be able to leak this in this way. First of all, it's reckless. There's no reason to do that other than to hurt the president right now. Why run with this to the New York Times at this moment in time? It's if you're upset that it looks like Trump is running up the scoreboard too much, and your team, the Democrat team, which is still unfortunately how a lot of deep staters in the government think about this, look like a bunch of clowns. So they've decided that they're going to go with this. But also, I don't find it, just as a person who's to look at these kinds of reports, I don't find it credible that we would have been able to drop these kinds of bombs, hit the sites, and there would not have been extreme damage. The kind that they're saying, it maybe only caved the entrance. It didn't necessarily destroy all the centrifuges or whatever. Well, a couple things on that. One, Clay, how long would it take for them to get up and running again? And even more importantly in some ways than that is, they know that we can hit them by having a bunch of guys take off from Missouri and they're back, eating at the local McDonald's 24 hours later, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. So that's also, I think, indicative of, the reality here versus the way it's being reported.
Yeah, when I see intelligence reports, and this was the same woman at CNN who had this initial report, who also broke the news about, hey, the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. Basically, much of the media is just used to launder stories that otherwise people would not be able to get out publicly. And I think people are getting more and more sophisticated about this. I've talked about this for some time, and I bet the case is true for you too. You can hate me with every fiber of your being. I will never be an anonymous source for any article. If I'm not willing to put my actual name behind it, I'm not ever going to be quoted. There's never been a quote from me that doesn't say, and Clay Travis said. And I bet for you, for better or worse, this is often true. Now, obviously, when you're in intelligence, you can't necessarily put your name behind it. But I automatically I knew this was going to happen. They were going to pivot from Trump made the wrong decision to attack Iran to as soon as the attack was successful, it wasn't as successful as it could have been because Trump is involved. And this is where I've been arguing this for years, Buck, and I think you see it too in the audience. There's never a story that is incorrect that benefits Trump. Never in the history of the New York Times, of the Washington Post, of ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, have they ever had to correct a story because it was too positive about Trump. If you were just negligent and if you were just incompetent at news gathering, you would make errors in both directions. Never occurs. And so as soon as they can get a negative story out, here's the other thing. I want your take on this. Isn't it likely true if we caved in all of the entrances to the Fordow nuclear facility that it is super difficult to know how far the entrances are caved in because you can't even get inside right now?
Yes. You would think that also the idea that somebody, Clay, in the DIA, which is where this leak reportedly came from, would have the definitive. It was listed as an early stage report or an early stage assessment. I think that is, who is this super G, right? It's interesting, isn't it? The media is very skeptical of the intelligence community's ability to know anything. There are people in the media right now who are anti-Trump who are skeptical that there were any nuke programs that we had to be worried about in the first place.
Although that's fading because Iran has basically acknowledged that they were trying to do nukes, right? So now it's that they've moved from, they're not even trying to get nukes to, well, the attack wasn't actually that successful. But it is very funny to see how quickly the pivot occurs.
But now what we have is a situation where they're willing to say, well, this one leak has a better insight into the real damage assessment here than whatever the collective response or the collective assessment is of the Pentagon, the intelligence community, and all the rest of it. So it's very obvious what's going on here.